don't know. That's good. Continue.
Ah,
Yeah,
back at it again.
yeah, it's the last episode. It's still cracking me up.
Wait, which part? We left out too many parts. Really.
Everything. Watching you back, yeah, you would think, were we drinking in this podcast episode? The things that makes you laugh is very interesting.
Mm.
Again, it's just the love, the atmosphere that you have, just brings out this joy in you. Now, yeah, with that, we'll say welcome
And now,
to the
welcome to another episode with Tawado today.
I know today.
Bilanal. English. We're gonna start off with the news of the season, which is
News.
the release of መጽሐፋችን መጽሐፎ
Ah,
ልጃችን
you know what's terrible?
uh,
I didn't even bring a copy.
ah
Because there's a video. I was like, oh, it's a podcast. We're just gonna talk about it. I completely forgot we're also doing a video. See, this is what happens when you turn 30, by the way. So this is gonna be the theme of my excuses all throughout this episode. Is that I'm 30 and I tend to forget things.
I'm dead. I mean, you can. We we'll definitely talk about the the 30 before I was 30 list really soon. But yeah, the book. What is really interesting about the book is I saw a lot of people said they bought it, and then they tagged you and then they did the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't see anyone that said that they finished it. Did you get people saying they finished it?
I had I'm not gonna lie. I didn't expect people to read it, but I've had four reviews so far. Four.
Oh, okay.
Four reviews. So I'm happy with that. I can be content with it.
Hmm.
It's not exciting because the amount of people that actually purchased the book
Hmm.
is a lot. But when
Hmm.
it comes to actually reading it, it's also a weakness of mine as well because I've
Hmm.
been to so many book releases everywhere with so many different people, and
Hmm.
for supporting you buy the book. It's a
Hmm.
magnificent book, and then you all hear the reviews like fantastic book. It describes this. It describes this. But often enough, it just goes into the shelf, and then it just looks good for the aesthetic. And I'm
Mm.
hoping that creation is not an aesthetic book in your shelf.
Yeah. No, it's actually like before you said the four reviews, I was kind of hoping that you said no one finished it, just for my ego, because I did, and I was gonna be like, yeah, I did though, co-host, and then just
I did a review with our brother Mati. You know Mati.
yeah, yeah.
And it was such a great discussion, and it's so insightful to also see people who have read it, and you're like, oh my goodness, yeah. I didn't know how to feel, right, when people are
Mm.
talking about the actual work of it, the actual message of it.
Hmm.
It's just very, very difficult to believe, and it's very flattering as well. More
Yeah,
than the purchases, when people get something out of it, is what true joy is. That's like, okay, yeah,
exactly.
I've done my responsibility in serving
Hmm.
God.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think one section that I wish maybe in the future might be expanded on was the dimension of spiritual warfare.
Ah,
Um,
yes.
because when I tell you, man, that's uh, you know, people always ask about that. They're like, there's Kasamas Kamadid, like everyone would ask that type of question when if
Yeah,
they're inquiring about the faith, they want to be more devout and everything.
yeah.
They have a lot of questions about that, and it was a very good intro, definitely. But man, looking forward to more.
Oh, it was that the challenging part about the when I was writing the book is that uh first of all, writing it in general is very challenging because this is our second language in learning as well. I never seen myself as a writer, but I seen the importance of it because we lack in resources as far as the Ethiopian Orthodox Daughter Church, and that was the main goal for me, is making sure there is some type of resource that our brothers and sisters can possibly use, even as far as Sunday school goes. So when you look at the general idea of the book, it seems like it's not expanded. It's like a short summary of each topic. Each topic can be its own book in general.
Mm.
The amount of content there is, the amount of lessons that our forefathers have in each of the chapters is immense. It's very difficult to condense and put it in this way. But unfortunately, we're not in the reading generation. It's not like our
Mm.
our fathers. It's not like the
Yeah.
generation before
Keep
them.
calling you guys out, guys.
Myself,
At the end of
myself as well.
June, you ain't reading. You ain't reading, guys.
I
There's
said
more
we. I
reviews.
said
Ara
we.
and the şey siyet. Wait, how many people bought the book? Did you have the statistics for that?
um. So when I released the book,
Mm,
um, here in Dallas, there was like 350 copies that I had.
mm.
That was gone. And then when I went to Denver, I had 100 copies and it was gone. And then online from Amazon, I believe maybe around 400 to 500. So it's up there. The
Yeah, it's
purchase is
definitely in
up
the
there.
thousand. So
Yeah,
thousand arat. Come on, guys. More
for
reviews. Let's go.
for
Yeah, we're gonna make this into real too.
we
Yeah.
want the critique. So it's a good book. But it's yeah. You don't want to hear that. You want like this part is terrible.
Mm.
And there has been a lot of challenges as well, which is good. But as far as the whole book goes, it could have been a lot more expanded. But unfortunately, because our attention span is very small and we're not much of a reader in this generation, so I made it like 113 pages, easy to read, kind of like a short summary of each. So that's why I think if people just sat down, they can read it maybe a day.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of Denver, I want to ask how so your book release. I think I don't know if it was the second one or the first one coincided with your birthday,
Yeah.
right? Was it the second one, right?
Oh
The
yeah.
one in
It
Denver,
was the,
right?
the second release, yeah, in Denver, yeah.
Yeah. How was that? How was that? Like, was there like a was the party like the birthday party for you? Like, was it before or after, or was it
And, when you turn 30, you do not want any type of celebration. Up until I was, I think, 26,
Mm,
it was so important for me to celebrate it.
mhm.
This is great. But afterwards, and then you start, counting down. You never want to see the numbers. How old are you now? Because I used to think, back in the day when you're hanging around, your friends, when I was 18, 19, there would be groups of people as well that were like 25, 26. I'm like, look at these old people. They should be married. Why are they hanging around us? Doesn't make sense. Get your life together. You should have two kids by now. That was me
Mm,
at 18. My perspective about being 25 and 26,
mm.
and then at 30, you should be a grandpa. That's my concept. I'm gonna have like four kids running around chasing
That's
the.
definitely the Ethiopian narrative, though. Like,
I was.
if you got like like just the Lijagarat, and then you got to enter, you'll
Yeah,
probably be a grandpa by 30. Definitely,
I should
I
have
could
been.
see that. I could see that. That's crazy,
my,
man.
my my father had what, three kids before 30.
Oh
So
wow,
yeah,
like it was so like
three.
anta atnateosna in
So
marathon.
yeah, so three of
Oh my
them.
goodness.
And at the age of 30, he's celebrating three kids and kasana. And here I am.
Oh, so like he became a case after 3 kids.
Yeah, yeah. It was, I
Oh,
remember, and Dome, yeah, it was after 80. After 80
okay,
was
I see,
born
I
is when
see.
he became a
I
priest.
do want to say though, like just knowing this now, I think part of the like in the race to becoming a priest, what
Yeah,
really helped him is like naming two of his sons after one of the greatest,
Bishop.
saints. Gorgorios check,
Yeah,
Athanasios check, and then
yeah,
just
this man knows what he's doing.
halfway through. you know,
Carry that name.
I'm,
That's another
I'm
thing.
kind of I'm curious. Growing up, did you always go? Because I know people, some people give you the nickname George,
Yeah.
and so like growing up, did you always go by George or like Greg? I mean, you can go by Greg,
Oh no,
in high school, but
it was Gorgoris the whole time, and it was the
oh
most
really?
challenging. And you would think in Ethiopia,
Uh,
you would have an easier time because it's not like you have to pronounce something. It's not like Gor. Nobody really, because in Amharic you just read Gore was. They do read it, but still struggle with it. I've been called names I could not say on.
no, this no, I try.
The teachers are terrible. And I used to tell my dad like this person
Wow.
did say this, but
Mm,
still a struggle. Like
mhm,
it's a very heavy name, and then it comes with expectation. Even if I was in a Malaka Salam's son,
mhm,
if I carried a name like Gorgorius,
mhm. That's
it's
impossible.
it's exhausting. It's
Yeah.
exhausting to
Getting
say
back
the
to the
least.
Denver thing though, just how was the release? How was and then like coinciding with your birthday,
Yeah.
coinciding with someone else's birthday, wink wink, and then also just how it all came together for you. I know Adam was there as well.
Yeah.
How was it? How was it?
I was very fortunate how everything kind of aligned, and then when everything is going well, you kind of worry, actually, what's about to go wrong. That was my
Mm,
biggest concern at the time as it was happening, and I'm like, oh my goodness, the devil must have something hidden and hindered it somewhere around here, and I was so scared to be excited and to be happy. To be honest with you, I'm not gonna
mm,
lie, and that's my biggest fear now. Whenever I'm like joyful and happy and excited, I'm like,
mm,
ooh, there's gonna be the backlash or the outlash is going to be very challenging.
mm,
But at the time, it was really amazing. It's not just about the birthday, also not just about the engagement, but to be back home to the people that raised me made the whole thing that much more special.
mm,
Because it's been such a long time since I was present there, serving there, a good 5 years maybe.
oh wow.
So being there and then them treating me as if I was like the 12, 11-year-old boy when I came to America. That's how they always see me. Like that's so it's good. So it wasn't just my parents that was there, but also my guardians that were there. So it
Mm,
made the whole thing so that much more special. So it just felt like a family reunion more than anything
mm,
to be precise, and it was just a wonderful time. God is good, and I was just happy to be home to celebrate turning of century, for in my case, and to celebrate also my engagement for my
mm.
path to priesthood.
My ticket to okay. I thought
Also,
I
also one thing, one cheat code. So this is not part of the series I've been doing on dating. Uh, a cheat code is to find somebody that has the same birthday, also making the engagement on the birthday, so you don't forget any anniversaries. You don't forget her birthdays. That's a cheat code. I'm telling you right now. Make sure to at least.
yeah. That's very smart.
That's a cheat
Yeah, we
code.
have a you remember this from like the one that used to give like a lot of I don't know like poetry at
Ah,
the
goodness, from
conferences and
DC.
everything.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, she got married on
yes.
her birthday as well. On her birthday and on his birthday
Genius.
as well.
Genius. See, this is what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. See, ahead of
Yeah.
her
So
time.
like
I'm taking lessons.
so you guys you heard it here
Yeah.
this time next year.
It saves you at least 14 arguments in your marriage.
14 Butchon.
Guarantee.
I mean, there's a lot of birthdays,
Guarantee.
anniversaries
Ah,
going on. Yeah.
alright. After a while ago, they stop celebrating. That's why.
Yeah.
After a while, your wife does not want you to remind her of her birthday. So, I'm just saying 14, at least a guaranteed number. More than that for sure.
I thought.
Yeah, it was great.
So just going off of like the age thing, I kind of want to see. I honestly I thought you were gonna send it to me before everyone heard it, but I want to see now.
I
Um,
was I
with
should have
the age like 30 before 30. What's your 30 before 30? I mean,
30 things.
yeah.
Yeah, the 30 things I knew. So I wrote it down so I don't forget. Right. But I don't know. It might take too long to list them all, but at least the most important things. I really want to share with people.
Or it could be like maybe a post thing too, like what's it called?
Oh
Like
yeah.
how much you're gonna do type of
Yeah.
for
I'm
the
gonna check
future. The entire list.
that.
But then like the ones that like really hit, like I want to
Yeah.
hear it. I definitely want to hear it. I think everyone wants to
Yeah.
hear it too.
Yeah. Most definitely. One of because these really altered my life in the way that it is right now, and they were decisions I needed to make for myself and for my growth. And if I didn't make these decisions, I honestly would not know where I would be today. Uh, the best decision I made is that I didn't chase after a career. I could have, went on to work with the school that I studied at. I had an opportunity to be in business with my one of my good friends. Money was there, wealth was there at the time. It's very time consuming, but at the time, the biggest challenge for me was that, okay, do I serve or do I work? So I was in the path of my career where I was succeeding a lot, and I was very happy with it. Financially, I was stable, and in many ways, I was stable. But I was also serving at the time, and I used to travel at least 2, 3 times a month. Every weekend, I was gone, and then I had an ultimatum from my workplace, the partners, and they said, either you're going to commit to work because we have a lot of we have a lot of goals, we have a lot of responsibilities that are not being taken care of because you're no show on the weekends. I'm like, I have service, I serve God. "Yeah, we understand, we support you, but this is also business." And then the biggest decision I made when I was 23 and 24 is that I left. I was like, when I serve, I have true joy, and I chose joy over financial stability. And that was the biggest turning point for me. So that decision to serve him was the best decision I've ever made. I do not regret it uh, for a second. It's been the best part of who I am, and choosing him, and he will never let you down. So I'm not saying like leave your career, your corporate
Hmm.
jobs, but what I'm saying is prioritize serving God beforehand. Prioritizing serving Him is very important. The second thing, best thing that I did, and I wish I knew a lot earlier, was defining success for myself. My success for the majority of my life was defined by either society or the people that were around me. This is success. You go to school, you graduate, you buy a house, you get married. So there's a certain standard of what success is. And outside of those parameters, you're no longer in a zone of succeeding, but you are completely failing in life. And that's how you feel because the moment you're not achieving those goals that the world has set for you, you become a failure in their eyes. And then you start perceiving yourself in the very same way that they look at you, like a failure.
Especially the time frame. The time, like,
Yeah.
just, oh, you have to get
Oh,
married
big
at
time.
25, or you have to,
Big time.
yeah, I can see that. Hmm.
Absolutely. It was the worst thing. As growing up, like, oh, dude, the son of this is this. በትምህርት እንዲህ መሆን አለብህ. With your school, you have to be like this. With your service, you have to be like this. All these things were really harming me, bringing me down, and I suffered depression for the majority of my life because of it. And then one day I sat down, because I always say this. This is kind of like a confession, right? A lot of people when they like, when they ask you the question, like, how do you see your future? Have you ever thought about that? Like, and then you would close your eyes and try to see or have at least some type of vision. And I never had one. It was just, I closed my eyes and it was just dark. There was nothing there. I had no goals, no visions, because everything is just given to me. So it's not my vision. It's not my goal. It's what people want me to be. So it was never my dream. Like, what am I chasing after? So I had to sit down and define what success is for me. And obviously, this is a cliche, but be better than who you were yesterday as the best way to go, and keep improving, and you'll find yourselves. We build a character uh, based off of people's demand and desire, and we lose ourselves
Hmm.
and becoming what people want you instead of you becoming who you need to be. So
Hmm.
letting go of what people need you to be allows you to become who you are meant to be. So that was the best
But
decision
no,
I made in
there's
my life.
another Kanye right there. There's another
this
Kanye
this
right there.
podcast, this it's the mic. Yeah. In all honesty, that was best decision. Defining success for yourself. Third, right, saying no.
Man,
No, or enough.
the no one is very, like, it's, man, especially in our community, it's
Yeah.
very, it's not as simple as saying no. But I think you're gonna explain on it right now, Adel.
no, yeah, it's no is very challenging because we're not used to it. Because you're not allowed to say no. Hey, we have this thing. I still haven't found the word for it. I think I may have asked it on this podcast. Yilungta. I don't know what that word is in English, but
Mm.
we have yilungta. Yilungta is on, shell. Why? And I used to be that way.
Hmm.
So
You
basically,
know, I think of when you said Yulunyata, like Yulunyata means like they told me. I guess a close one would be people pleasing.
yeah, kind of. I
Cause like
think so.
Yulunyata alunyi, like Yulunya, like alunyi. So therefore, I'll do it. Type of like people pleasing in a way.
I think that's as
Close one
close
maybe.
as you doing ties right now. You doing ties right now. It's a disease. It's like cold is going on the gunfan is going on the mibala you doing ties right now. Makes you do because you pile on assignments and projects and nonsense that you do not need in your life, because you want to please your friends, you want to please your family. You doing ties right, you do a lot of terrible things. So saying no was one of the important things. Let's see, because I'm trying to pick an,
Let me ask you this actually
yeah,
from a perspective on like the saying no part. People pleasing with people pleasing people on like with the reels with the TikToks what that one guy talked about in the last episode.
yeah,
People are going to listen to this and they're probably going to categorize what you said with the self-help community, which says, oh yeah, don't listen to anyone. They just I'm going to know do monk mode. Don't speak to anyone. Cut
yeah,
everyone off, and
yeah.
then just and then do your thing, and then that's people what people might take out of it, but that's not what you mean. It's
No,
there's like there's a certain level of people pleasing you have to do to a certain extent. Malet,
yeah,
like like just baseline. When you speak to people, for example, I can speak in Amariya, but
mm,
then because we're doing a podcast that's based in English and people are listening, we have to speak in English. You know what I mean?
no,
Like there's a level of okay, you're giving something away. You know what I mean? But then like with what you said, uh, if it comes to a level of uh, giving for the sake of feeling better about myself or feeling better about or just feeling like I fit in, like to fit in with the group,
yeah,
at that point, you end up being, uh, you know, like for example, like the antenmatano, like the what's it called? Hey, I didn't know. Like the pronouns thing. I don't want to get canceled right off the bat, but like
yeah.
it ends up being like
Episode
that,
three. Yeah,
it ends up being like that because you are uh, co-signing on a version of reality that people are proclaiming is reality. And
facts.
that's like a completely different thing than okay, let me speak in English so that people understand what I'm saying,
Yeah,
so that they can get to whichever it is with God or whichever it is to like a realization with themselves. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
those are two completely different things.
exactly. Exactly.
And
And differentiating those two are the most important part, right? We're not just saying like no to everything, but we're saying choose and, pick and choose your what you can do. Don't take on too much. When
mhm,
you take on too much, you end up, burning out
mhm,
a lot earlier than you meant to be. Yeah. That being selfless is my other one, right? So I have to be selfless, and being selfless and serving others it gives you true joy as well. Because in our day and age, we're meant to be selfish. We only think about ourselves, and we do what is best for ourselves. So being selfless is very, very important. Everybody's watching out for themselves. I don't know if you notice. It's very difficult to trust people. People do not trust one another. They only show themselves on partial levels because there is no trust, and that is because people are out there for themselves. Because at any moment they can strike you down and use your weaknesses as a leverage for them to surpass you. And though for those reasons, a lot of people are like very selfish, keep to themselves, and selfless is sometimes very risky because it makes yourself very vulnerable. And for me, my whole life, that's been a very vulnerable one. I feel like it's a reality show. When I really go back and look at everything that has happened in my life, I'm like, okay, that makes sense because everybody feels like they know you
mhm.
because you are on display. And that is because I want people to learn from my lifestyle, and I'm not ashamed of my weaknesses. I'm not ashamed of what I went through in order to be where I am. So that comes from being selfless, allowing people to see you,
Mhm.
every part of you. It's risky. This is tough. It's very, very challenging because in our day and age, we're raised to be kind of like snakes. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Just like very shrewd. You don't know how people move. You can never see them and know exactly what their intentions are. So being living a selfless life is challenging, but I think one that will make you happy as well. So these four important things that I did for myself. Um, at least let me add one more, and adding new skills, learning new skills every opportunity that you get changes who you are, because
Mhm.
you're exercising new part of your brain. Because I remember when I went to study, Gane, one thing that Abba said is just like, are you ready? Because after this you will never be the same. Like, okay. You exercise a different side of your brain, and this that allows you to see the church differently, allows you to see the scriptures differently. I
Mhm.
never understood. But it is true. It's not just about kane, but also when you learn a new skill, you're using part of your brain that you've never exercised before, to do that as often as possible. Because I didn't realize how much time we had in our 20s, but we have a lot of time. A lot of time. Most of it is being wasted, and I know I wasted a lot of time when I was in my 20s. You would think you're well put together, and like just when I show you my highlights, it seems like I've done enough. But no, I wasted so much of my time. But
Mhm.
learning new things, learning new skills, and improving yourself really makes a difference when you turn 30. You don't have to fear it. Right?
Mhm.
The best thing about the past 2, 3 years is that, and I don't regret, or I don't look back and be like, oh my goodness, I should have done this, I should have done that. I felt like God has allowed me to live through what I needed to live through and to accomplish what I needed to accomplish. And every little instance of my life, I see it as accomplishment. Even waking up in the morning is a great accomplishment. That is what success is for me. Me waking up and thanking Him, praying to Him, glorifying Him in itself was a success. I have achieved something. Like, I woke up and I was grateful, and for that, I'm happy and I felt like I achieved something. So these things really defined who I was.
Mhm. And
Sorry
I
for
think
taking
of
so long.
with what you said, especially the last few ones about being selfless. I think of what Christ said to Peter about you must give up your life to find it. You
Mm,
must, and what he meant by that is, obviously we can go deeper into that, but then as a surface level is like what you said. You woke up and then you were grateful to God, uh, but then some people just relying on their emotions, and we're not free of that. It's just purely the grace of God, and then we did our best,
yeah,
the combination of that, obviously the orthodox understanding of salvation, working together with the grace of God. If it wasn't for that, we would be in the same space. But then some people have the wrong notion of giving into their emotions, giving into their own desires, and then they end up taking on their life, and
mm,
then they end up, and I've met people like that where uh, they those people that ask, and then we talked about last episode, the people that ask you, oh, is this allowed, is this allowed, is this
mm,
allowed,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and those usually the people that ask that question 8 times out of 10 are usually the ones that are giving away all their time to something else, to their own desires,
yeah,
and then not something higher, and then like whenever something higher like makes them guilty, now they want to decrease that guilt by um you know receiving some sort of solace by asking. But then I think that what Christ said, giving, you have to give your life away to get it. You have
exactly,
to sacrifice some things to get something,
yeah,
and that definitely reminds me of that. But very beautiful. I hope you know uh, we may even this is a little too ambitious, but I was thinking Patreon or something like that, and then just be like 30 for before 30, and then pushing on that. That may be too
maybe.
ambitious.
Hey, always dream big, dream
Dream
big.
big. I with the, I think the next line that in line with this, oh, what I see is this question of this question was asked a few times on the account, which is how to not be a lukewarm Christian.
Uh,
How to not be a lukewarm Christian is a question that was asked a few times, and um,
oh,
I, if we don't understand what lukewarm is, we could just try this. Go get a hot coffee and put ice in it, and try to drink it. Like, and then just, it's stale. It's, you want to spit it out. You don't like it.
yeah.
And that's pretty much the definition of a lukewarm Christian. It's just someone that's, well, what you said, the first thing, like someone
Uh,
that's indecisive. Like you have to decide. Someone
yeah.
that's indecisive, that's trying to climb. Basta siya siya minamilus. But hulat zaf maande antin mata no, I forget the name.
ሁለት
Like
እግር
you
አለኝ
can't
ተብሎ
climb two
ሁለት
trees
ዛፍ ላይ
at once. Like man, like I wish we could. I'm gonna be honest. I wish we could. But but
ስፓይደርማንም
you can't.
አይመኘውም
But you really can't. And
yeah.
and the remedy for that uh really is the what the fathers said, but then I'll kind of direct it back to the scriptures.
Yeah.
Ecclesiastes uh, says, someone who is always thinking about happiness is a fool,
Mm.
and a wise person thinks about death.
Oh,
And that remembrance of death, of not just your own mortality, but also the mortality of those around you, the loved ones, like you keeping that in mind will light a fire to keep you going, and that lukewarmness, I think, is honestly, and this is a hot take, probably is one of the many reasons, one of the reasons we experience like these, like, times of depression, let's say, times of like low experience,
yeah.
just feeling low and sad. And I think of that with in light of just what people asked, what's a way besides remembrance of death, to kind of combat being lukewarm and being more decisive, and moving forward in that.
Yeah. Um, I was, when I saw the question, as well, I was like trying to see, like, where does it come from? Where is this coming from? This lukewarm concept, and and then we can refer back to the Book of Revelations, chapter 3, and I have it out right here, 3:15 or something like that, right? 14, sorry. Um, and then it was written for a certain church. Like, one thing I was trying to figure out as well. And I don't know how to pronounce this church. Do you know it?
It's what, we'll put
Laodicean,
it as a text.
Laodicean, or
It's
something like that.
Laodecia, I think, right?
Yeah, like, this it's about this church, specifically. And then you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot. I will vomit you out of my mouth. I was like, Jesus.
Lord,
Yeah,
have
in
mercy.
itself, it's a very scary statement that Jesus makes here. And I'll like spit you out.
Mhm.
And I was trying to figure out why, like, he used this example or symbolism in a way. And of course, historically, this is maybe a lot of people know, you know as well for sure, is that it's where the city is. That it has a historical context to it. So in this city, there is two sources of water, apparently, right? And then there's a hot spring, and then there is a cold mineral water that it has. But when it gets to the city, when it gets to this area of the people, the water is neither hot nor cold. Like, now it's a mixture of two. It's lukewarm, and whenever you drink it, you just feel like spitting it out. So this is where the concept, and the symbolism comes from as well. But and I was wondering, like, 'cause he says lukewarm is bad. What about cold? You're neither cold nor hot.
Mm.
And this was something I wanted to ask you as well. So is the cold a bad thing in this symbolism? Because he's like, you're neither cold nor hot, but he doesn't rebuke the cold, because cold could be refreshing as well. Like a cold glass of water, cold glass of milk seems to be decent, and something, a hot drink, a hot beverage like a coffee or a tea is very good as well. So
Mm.
I wanted to take your see your take as well. Like, is it bad, or is it, what's this concept that we take
I
from it?
think with the cold one, it's definitely I relate it to people that outright just denied the faith,
Ah,
or they just decided, okay, that's not for me. I'm not gonna do this. I was actually speaking to a friend just a few hours ago, and
okay,
he's Catholic, but he's not really practicing, and so like their Lent, like Avizom, their Avizom started,
okay.
and so their version of Avizom is you just pick one thing and then you just don't do it. Don't eat it. Or like if it's like soda, you don't drink it.
You're joking.
You pick basically. Antana with Marto. That's its own episode.
There is no way. So you're telling me you pick one thing to give up during Lent, and that's all you have to do.
Yeah, like he was telling me his girlfriend like gave up soda, and like that's all she had to like not drink, like, and that was it. Like if it feels like a diet. I was like, and I'm not gonna comment on it. I'm just gonna leave it. But one thing he said to me was he said, okay, yeah, I'm not Wednesday and Friday I can't eat uh you know
Uh,
meat halal, you know,
okay.
and then and then we sat down, and then by the way, we were at Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A is sponsoring this episode. That's why we got all the nice cool equipment, by the way.
Yeah. Sponsored by Chick-fil-A.
And
They're
so
off
he
Sundays.
he was eating mac and cheese in front of me, dude,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, nice."
Definitely.
And and then and the reason why I'm mentioning that now is because it's not to say, okay, you have to eat something, you can't eat something else. It's
Yeah.
not me judging him necessarily, but then him, like in and of himself, from his own admission, he has this weird relationship with the Catholic Church. Like he doesn't really like the priests. He doesn't really like, the whole scandal situation. We're not going to mention now. Everyone knows it, and
Yeah.
so he, because of that, he's not really involved in the church. But then at the same time, he said, I kind of want to do Lent, but then not really. But yes, okay, but then not really. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
wishy washiness, and so with the cold that you said, it's better to be cold. Mikinatum. At least you decided. At least you said no to God. But
Yeah.
then if you say okay, yes and no at the same time, like which is it? Like it's. I think of it with the relationship. If anyone has watched the OTYD, the course with you, it's the situationship يلوثال بزي
Yeah.
زمان. You know?
Yeah.
Or it's just we don't really know, but we don't want to
Yeah.
label it.
No label on it.
It's just good. Like let's just
Love.
keep it that way.
Fun.
It's and it's better to be cold than that, because you just don't know. You're always on an emotional roller coaster. And
Yeah.
all of that symbolism is included in that, because when I think a better example than the coffee example I gave earlier was if you have a water bottle in like a water bottle in your car, and now it's Hino, and then
Yeah.
you come inside and you try to drink it.
Stale.
You ever tried that?
I've never. It's disgusting.
Yeah,
Unless I'm dying,
I've
I would
tried
not
it.
do it.
It's completely, yeah. Like
Yeah.
even like if you refrigerate it, kind of like it tastes horrible.
Yeah.
And the whole mindset here is like it's better to be cold, because andanyahan,
Yeah.
where it's gonna end.
Yeah.
But like with the mixed one, it's a worse evil, because you knew better, but you're not deciding. It's not to say that you can't sin ever, but it's
Yeah.
to say that, like, are you convicted to repent like each and every single time that you sin? Are you convicted to come back to God each and every time you don't feel like it? And
Yeah.
so there's that like decision. Like, are you using your free will aspect of it? So that's where I see the coldness. Like, at least they decided, nah,
Yeah.
to God.
What percent of if we have to estimate, what percent of our believers, us, are actually here in this lukewarm state? If we have to
Well, I mean, man, I mean, that's a difficult one. I think
guess.
as the
I feel like the
the thing
numbers
is,
are
like,
high though.
everyone knows, to a certain extent, everyone knows their own, whether or not they're,
Yeah.
being, and hopefully, this will wake them up and then snap them out of it and say, okay, am I really doing this or am I really not? Because the kingdom of heaven, as loving as God is, and I'm going to use Mahdi's haq here,
Yeah.
as loving as God it is, one of our fathers, Saint Isaac the Syrian, he says that hell, one of the ways to understand hell is, it's the love of God. One of the ways to understand hell, this, which is, this is gonna
That's,
blow people's minds. One of the ways
yeah.
to understand hell is the love of God, and the reason why is the love of God pervades everything. Like Zayma, like he fills everything,
Mm,
and when His love touches your, like, just intent, like, lukewarmness, or like even the category of no, but then the lukewarmness, it ends up like riddling you with so much guilt because the love of God is so immense and
mm,
so pure. And imagine feeling guilty and incapable of saying sorry. Like you're just like in that for eternity. You know what I mean?
uh,
And people, we can't really envision that unless we think of like someone we've wronged in our life, and like imagine feeling as the worst horrible state about what we did, and then for eternity.
yeah.
And with that, to kind of, hopefully that will help people to snap out of it. But it's definitely like there are seasons, like on me personally, like I've definitely, I'm pretty young, thank God, like, and like I was
You're not. You're
like, I
not
hope,
30.
like a child kind of.
You're not
uh
30.
yeah, I'm definitely, that's what I mean, man. I'm definitely gonna use
You're
your thing,
young.
man.
Yeah. You're not
And
30.
it's there's seasons. I think like everyone has their own the season of lukewarmness, but they just need to, snap out of it again, and recommit and redecide, because really the power is within you. The
Yeah.
power of that free will,
Absolutely.
we don't
Absolutely.
think
Yeah.
it is, but really,
Uh,
really, at the core of it, it is. And I think of what Christ said: "You have given us the power to tread on serpents and scorpions." And
mm,
this is referring to, the demons. If you
mm-hmm.
want to learn more about demons, read creation. All right, that's the
Creation.
plug.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I think of it's very helpful to have, these wake up calls. But I think all of us,
Yeah.
really, like 100%, to answer your question,
Very true.
have gone through that. Maybe are still going through that. Um, it's a difficult thing,
Yeah.
definitely.
That's it is. When you look at lukewarmness in general, so I had just a few pointers. Um, from this is just my perspective as well, but this is definitely true for the most part. Um, this is very common in young Christians, right, trying to explore the world. This is where people get stuck. They see their parents being devoted, their grandparents being so close to God, and them always hearing, God is great and He's done this for me, He's done that for me. So there's some certain part of you when you were growing up, you're like, oh, God is good, and I've seen the blessings that He has given my family. I've seen the wondrous things that He has done for a lot of people. So you still have that desire to be within the house of the Lord. Also, you grow up serving Him. There's that fire within you as well. There's nothing like serving God. You're always joyous, ecstatic, and not just that, but you also receive blessings, and you've seen the wonders of this wonderful church. So for the most part, people who grew up in the West, in the Western, they've always went through the Sunday school system. At least once you stood in front of people, in front of the congregation, and sing songs.
Hmm.
Maria Fidel. the amount of time we sang this song.
Man.
we've all had this wonderful service lifestyle, but as you grow older, you also want to discover what the world is like. You're intrigued in that. So the world is a very cold world, right? Because it takes you away from God, and you no longer feel the warmth of the Holy Spirit. So it's a very terrifying place to be in. But we counteract this by having this temporary AC coming to church here and there. This
Mm.
is what lukewarmness is. All right, so
Another
you're
point right there.
freezing. Like I'm not gonna die.
Mhm.
It's freezing. Let me just warm up a little bit. You warm up your body, and then boom, you're gone again. So you go back and forth in your spiritual life, and you can never find a proper state to be in the embrace of God. And then outside of the embrace of God, there's no warmth in general. I think um, the second issue is adults experiencing spiritual complacency. First is like the youth. When you're 20s, you're living two different lives because you're like, I want to experience this, I want to experience that, but also I want God to be present with me. God is not going to hold you by the hand as you explore the word. It's not going to happen. It's lukewarm. You'll be spat out. Right? So if you guys remember, I said when you read the book of Revelations, chapter 1, it talks about judgment is on his lips. So basically, what this means is that spitting you out means it's a forever thing. It's not like get away from me, but when you repent, no, it's the final judgment. Especially those of us who are in the New Testament, we have to think twice. At least in the Old Testament, I feel like they're lucky. Even after they died, if they repent after the Messiah, they had an opportunity to go back to the heavens. But the second time around in the New Testament, it's impossible. You only live once, literally.
Mhm.
So we have to make the proper decisions. And as young people, we think we're invincible. That is the biggest reason why we become lukewarm. It's like I'll know. Like after this, after a while, I'll go back to God and I'll get my things straight. It won't happen. Don't feel like you're invincible because you don't know what's gonna happen to you tomorrow. I didn't know. So make sure to live appropriately and devote yourself completely in order to have a hot, a hot lifestyle. The second thing, the
Life.
second, yeah, second group of people though are the adults. I don't know if you noticed. The adults are in this state of complacency, right? Because there's life, family that they have to take care of. They lose sight of their spiritual life.
Mhm.
That's why they come to church. They know the importance of coming to church. They know the importance of their kids learning, understanding the word of God, but they themselves do not learn.
Mhm.
They feel like they have outgrown it for some odd reason, or they're not learning something new. So
Mhm.
they don't pay attention. You don't see them aspiring to learn more spirituality. As young people, you watch them. They participate in Bible studies. Young people always do. Even the parents, the adults, when they were younger, they do the very same thing. They used to attend gubais, learn Sunday schools. They were always
Mhm.
growing. At a certain point, they stopped doing all these things. Then they stopped growing. If you're not growing, if you're not learning more about God, then you have halted your spiritual journey. You're lukewarm again. Adults, they need to get out of this spiritual complacency and actually um, drive themselves as they did when they were younger. So
I
these two
think a lot
groups
of along with
struggle.
what you said, a lot of youth even to kind of go back on one of your intent, they would look at lukewarm adults and then say, "Oh, I guess this is okay," and then this is what Christ even himself said.
Yeah,
And I hope I prayed, Lord, let touch in that we don't end up like that, end up being an obstacle for others. But
yeah,
it's people end up thinking, oh, I guess that's fine. Just go to church and then you just wear the clothes and then you just get,
yeah,
even like with the Eucharist, even like when you think about it, even with the Eucharist, it's salvific. It's saving you. The body and blood of Christ can only save you if you are seeking Him. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not actively seeking Him, we say in the liturgy, like it's going to be condemnation to you. It will fall. You know what I mean? Like there's
yeah,
nothing you can do within the faith unless you're directing it toward Christ. That uh, is going to end up with your, having let's, to use your analogy, to have a hot, you know disposition toward God. You can't have that unless it's like a decision, as you said, that you make, and you say, okay, I need God, I need a relationship with God. That's a non-negotiable. If I don't have that, then it's pointless. Anything and everything that I do is, aimless, and we have to really repent from that. And that doesn't come overnight. But then
Yeah.
having that aim, that goal, uh, that aim, we could speak to, our spiritual fathers. We could, devise a plan from where we are standing, no matter how low it is, and then
Yeah.
try to move forward, instead of looking at the adults or whoever and then saying, "Oh, egali naziyar gan," like egali, whoever does this, I guess I'm gonna be like that, and
Yeah.
then just end up falling away.
We give absolute terrible excuses for a lot of people. That's one of the worst place that you can be. Like, "Ah, ፊንዱ እሱ ዲያቆን ሆኖ እንደዚህ ካደረገ እንዴ ምናምን." This is terrible. And in a sense, we've done a terrible job leading by example. We don't have a good reputation as far as deacons go. And we have to take responsibility for that. We have to do a better job of setting the standard higher for deacons. Obviously, we're all humans. Right? We're not expected to be perfect, and you know how people want to see us being, sanctified and edifying. But
Mhm.
that's not that will never be the case. At least avoid being a stumbling block. So that's a great point. The third group of people that really struggle with this are servants. It doesn't matter if you're a Sambat Tamari, if you're it doesn't matter if you're a preacher, it doesn't matter if you're a deacon, priest, whatever. The biggest issue why or the reason why they are lukewarm is because once again it goes back to growth. A lot of servants they exceed in their services and serving others, but they are not serving themselves, meaning they're not growing themselves. For example, as preachers or deacons, we tend to read a lot, we grow a lot, we grow in knowledge, but lose sight of faith. And if these two things are not in alignment, then we are losing ourselves and we're becoming once again very lukewarm. Having knowledge does not mean you're closer to God. Knowledge is just anybody can acquire it. But when those two things are in alignment with faith, faith and knowledge are the most important things. Specifically, when it comes to faith, we neglect faith in order to gain more knowledge. We do what is best in the eyesight of human beings rather than in the eyesight of God. As servants, the main focus should be how does God feel about what I am doing right now? If it is for Him, you grow in faith and in knowledge. That's why, our forefathers, there's a great example. I think it was maybe, I can't name his name, but he was a great preacher at once upon a time, but no longer. He said something in the line of, our, grandmothers, whenever they speak about the angels and they saying to like, oh, Abate Amlake Mikael. That means they lack in knowledge, but God hears them the appropriate way, right? Same, Abba Hiriakos was a great, being for example for all of us, but he was not the most knowledgeable person. But his faith is the one that really delivered the appropriate message to all of us, and it was wonderful to see. Same in our with our grandparents. I'm like Michaela about them. You're like, oh, nyal tamaru sa ibadan. Good. God hears them. They have a higher place in the kingdom of heaven than we do. People who claim to know Him or
I
have
want to
knowledge.
ask you, why do you think that is? Just out of like a curiosity to kind of peck at it, because a lot of times when people think of Orthodox, especially Orthodox Christians, we
Yeah.
always get this rap of like, oh, you guys always talk about this, about that, about this, about that. Tabazutalach. Like, you just make it too much. Like, you know what I mean? All I want is Christ, and that's it. And
Ah,
they make that, but then you just pointed out a really deep truth to the mothers, even though they're speaking heresy when they say I'm like a Gabriel, that's
yeah.
that's straight up a heresy. You are gonna get
Yeah.
excommunicated for it. But
Yeah.
but they are much, and I've we both, I know we both have stories to tell of these mothers, of
Yeah.
how many miracles there are.
Yeah.
Another episode, but Like, why do you think that is? Why do you think these mothers are like in a higher place than, because if knowledge is not, if this podcast, please listen, but like if this podcast is not, oh, I just gained the knowledge again, like what makes these mothers higher? Like, and how does
Uh,
what can we take from that?
That's the easiest question of the day, to be honest with you. The easiest one. And the answer is simple. It's this, right? Because God speaks the language of the heart, not the يلسون لسان سيهون. He hears the heart.
Mm,
It doesn't matter what you do. Your actions are not the outcome of your mind. It is of your heart, whatever you do. And God does not just see the actions that you do, the service that you give, but He also sees your heart, right? Because there's a lot of us who preach, great sermons, like, okay, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, but in reality, we don't exercise those things.
mm,
So having knowledge does not mean you are faithful to God. In faith, there is faithfulness, but in knowledge, there is no faithfulness. And God hears the heart, and not of the lips. The words that come out of our mouths exactly, because He hears that. Same thing, right? We don't have to sit here and really preach at you guys, yeah, right? Because you should know when Abel and Cain brought sacrifices, God didn't see the sacrifices. He looked at their hearts,
mhm,
right? God saw their hearts and then the sacrifice. So God sees your heart and then your action.
mm,
If you fail at the heart, it really doesn't count. It doesn't mean anything. So whenever these our mothers say, Abati or Amlaki Gabriel, he sees the heart. What do they mean? He knows exactly what they mean,
mm,
and he accepts their glorification in the way that they perceived it in the heart, not in the lips.
mm. Deep. That's deep right there.
That's
I
true.
don't think it's about innocence either. Like, it's really just about, honesty. It's really
Yeah.
just about, are you, because I mean, in Dalcook, this generation, we something, bro. We got something.
Uh,
So the only way, like, that purity comes from, like, we can start from, like being honest and saying, you know, I'm not running. I'm of no use. Like, let's see what you do.
Not too
God forbid.
harsh. Not too harsh.
Yeah.
But good.
Let's
Yeah.
just start. Let's start there.
What is that verse? Kantuning. A
Can
song.
tuning.
There's a wonderful
Ecclesiastes,
song that
bro.
I really love. Plug. My favorite song. Kantuning.
Yeah, and he even took it. I think he took it from Ecclesiastes as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not self hatred.
yeah, yeah,
It's a true reflection of self.
yeah.
It's just making sure that we're really nothing without God.
Mhm,
It really helps our, this heart so that we're not lukewarm. So lukewarm is that means it's very comfortable. How do we take showers? Hot or cold? Lukewarm. Because it's a state of comfort. That's just what it is. And the spirituality, if you are in the state of comfort, then you are lukewarm. That's not what God is looking for. That means you're basically content where you are spiritually, to the point, right? This is the worst part. The reason why Jesus Christ has spit you out is because when you are in a comfort zone, you have no need to submit yourself, to take risks, and to invest in God Himself. You're not in need of it because everything is set out for you. That means you're comfortable. So how often do you seek Him? It doesn't happen, right? So this is the problem with lukewarmness, is that you're very content and comfortable where you are. Lukewarm showers, the best. Cold showers, at least refreshing. Hot showers could be something that we tend to avoid, but lukewarm is something that we are comfortable with, and
mhm,
comfort is the worst thing in spirituality.
mhm. So those
Uh,
three get categories, right? Like, so the youth, the adults, and then the servants.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
basically everyone.
Basically everyone. Yeah. Yeah.
But
People.
now we know why they struggle in those states.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And with the remembrance of death thing, I kind of
Yes.
want to
Yes.
pull
Yes.
a thread
Yes.
there,
Yeah.
and like, let's say, God forbid, uh, we, there's a lot of death happening, especially in Dallas. And I want to ask you, you ever spoke at a funeral before?
Um. Yes. few times, believe it or not.
Okay, so yeah, it's
Uh,
gonna be a little morbid, by the way,
yeah,
guys. So,
yeah.
but
It's you you have really have no words. It's
mhm.
the most difficult thing for people that do. It's truly it must be a God given gift in G, uh, to stand and speak. It's very tough.
Mhm.
Have you?
Yeah. So yeah, my I think the it's actually one of the first times I've even gone to like Alexo, really.
Okay.
And it was I'm not gonna say the name out of respect, but it was difficult because I realized on with like kind of piggybacking off of the lukewarm thing, because we're not like on the same page with the congregation of the faith. We tend to like we are we're sadder. I don't want to say this like that because everyone grieves in their own way, but
Yeah.
we are sadder than we need to be. There is a level of grief that
Mm.
Christ himself grieved when Lazarus passed away in the Gospel of St. John chapter 12,
Yeah.
but he knew he was about to bring him back up. Like it's not like that was foreign to him,
Yeah.
uh, but he still grieved. But then at the same time, we grieve to a point of, oh, I'm never gonna see them again. Like, and not even that, like they don't exist anymore. Even like
Mm.
the almost denying that spiritual element of the fact that they exist in this realm beyond us now. Our beloved ones, our you know those around us, and so that's a topic in and of itself. But there's this book called 61, and it's exactly 61, which is interesting. I don't know why he chose that number, but it's an Eastern priest.
Okay.
He compiled like basically a bunch of talks that he or someone else gave, like, or priests that gave talks at funerals, and then just it's called 61 talks to give at Orthodox funerals. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is to kind of go with the lukewarm thing is um, we have, because of this lukewarmness, a lot of what's called, again, hot take, what's called a mental health, like depression. Um, and I'm saying a lot, I'm not saying everything, is due to our own lack of decision, or due to our own doing to ourselves, you know? And I'm reminded by what St. John Chrysostom says in his treatise. Even the title of the treatise, he goes deep into it, but the title of like an entire passage is "No one can harm the person who does not harm himself." And um, he, uh, we have inflicted this, upon ourselves. This, the some of it, like the anxiety, some of the anxiety. Some people that feel anxiety, but really it's they bring it upon themselves, but they don't know it. And then some of them with the uh, sadness, feeling low, they bring it upon themselves. And I think of uh, the show 13 Reasons Why.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
you ever saw that show?
Still do tell us.
And so yeah, I mean, I highly, honestly, it's a very difficult show. It's a very, like, it might be best, like, in the future, where I definitely want us to outsource and look at shows and movies and understand it, like what can we take out of it.
Mm.
But this one is so emotionally draining, and then I speak from experience.
Okay.
It's such a, it draws you in, and it affects you in ways that you would not expect. But then if there's one thing we can draw out of it, and we'll talk about it in the following episode, is procrastination. I heard this recently. Procrastination is the assassination of any destination.
Wow. It's
um,
powerful.
and I think of that, and I think of one of the lessons I learned from that show, which is much of the the pain, the suffering that comes to us, that inflicts us the meaningless suffering. Because life is there is suffering that's that transcends us, that gets us to the kingdom of heaven. But then there's this meaningless suffering that we inflict upon ourselves that we don't need to. That comes from ourselves. That comes from this lukewarmness that comes from separating ourselves from what it is that we have to do. And then I don't have to go too far to even prove this, as a claim. Uh,
Yeah.
the rise of the need for mental health professionals skyrocketed, in the last decade, because of the rise of social media. And even like during COVID, like that, there's even a higher need for that. Why? Because we are a disconnected from each other. B, we spend an inordinate amount of time not outside. Like there's this one podcast, Andrew Huberman. If people want to check it out, he goes explains from a physical science perspective of how even the sun can
Yeah.
can help your mood, just being out in the sun.
Very true.
Like, and that's such a imagine, like,
Yeah.
and that's how we're designed by God to live a certain way. And like our physical informs our spiritual, informs our soul. And um, a lot of that is definitely self-inflicted. And so the question I want to ask you, uh, to kind of discuss is how, you know this is a loaded question. How can we move from a place of helplessness to a place of, okay, I can have like a set of directions, with the lukewarmness, not doing what we what we have to do. How can we move from a sense of um, dejection, lowliness, to a level of, um, okay, I'm moving towards something from that perspective? Because lukewarmness definitely brings about that, that
Yeah.
even like lenya, like we don't want that. And
Yeah.
so, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, very loaded question, and I'll make it very brief. Just checking our time as well, but it's perfect. Um, I think it's important to start off from where you begun this conversation. Like the perspective that you have about life in general should be the driving force in what you do every single day and the choices that you decide to make. And that is the perspective of life and death in general. We live a lifestyle where we are shocked, right? And that is because we don't have a sense of anticipation with anything. And if you do not have anticipation, then you're not really living a proper Christian life. There is a reason why even Jesus Christ, when he was giving a certain parable, he says, I think kingdom of heaven is like a person that waits the thief in the middle of the night. If you're not up anticipating there might be a person that's trying to break into your house, then whenever it does happen, you're not well equipped, you're not well prepared. And the consequence is not just going to be physical harm, also spiritual harm, mental harm as well. Because that experience in itself can ruin you. So that is what is happening right now. You kind of mentioned the pandemic as well. When the pandemic happened, there is no anticipation for that kind of moment because we are not built to be confined in such a small space with the watching the same people over and over and over again to the
Mm,
point where we lost ourselves because we are a group of people. We are a society that is accustomed to uh, doing whatever we want when we want it. So there is no ችግር አልለመድንም.
mm,
And that's one of the things that the adults do not understand about the youth in this country, especially when it comes to mental health and mental wellness, is that like ምን ጎድሎባችሁ ነው? ቤት አለ ምናምን. They don't. Why? Because the challenges that we face for them, they went through so much. They are like their mental strength is completely different than ours.
mhm,
And if we don't exercise that mental wellness, strength, then we're not going to have the strength to deal with any circumstance. It's very challenging. It's not in our nature. Right? It's normal to feel, anxiety, depression, loneliness. All these things are normal feelings for any human being. will be a lie if somebody says they do not experience these things. But like you said, it's about how you, one, prepare yourself, right? Two is making sure you anticipate downfall, because we live on a very high, and in the moment we lose something, our whole world falls apart as if there's no tomorrow. Me personally, it has happened to me a few times, believe it or not. When you lose everything and everyone around you, you feel like it's the end of the world. You feel like the sun has went down; it's never gonna come up. Like your life is done, over. Well, there's no point in living anymore, right? It's a very dangerous space to be in. So it was very good, important that I had people who are mentally strong and spiritually strong more than anything. And I remember, just a great father, Abak almost Theodros. He's like, why are you, why are you crying? Why are you so concerned? And then it just gave you perspective back, like the saints that we've been reading about on all those people like with the issues. Is somebody trying to cut off your arm? No. Somebody trying to skin you alive? No. Why are you putting yourself in this predicament when you should be grateful? Like, so this is the mentality that they have. Obviously, I didn't have that mentality, and I never understood. Right? Even when he was saying these things, I was like, how inconsiderate must he be? He must not know. Don't just simplify my pain. you know,
Validate me, validate
validate
me. Like
me.
everyone is talking about, like, the pronoun people, the LGBT pronoun people, like,
Yeah,
validate, but not like
validate me.
Caesars or yeah.
And they cry with me. That's just the way we are right now.
Mhm,
And even this, like even what we are saying might offend some people, unfortunately. But
mhm,
that's not something that uh, is going to help other people. Are you listening? If you're offended by it, it's a matter of perspective, right? It's something I went through and dealt with, and really helped me, and mental strength and understanding the perspective of, like, at least it gives you, for example, just realizing if you're fasting, struggling, there are people who have no food whatsoever. When you have these type of perspective, you see your life in a completely different side. So it's very important to have that perspective of future, perspective of your surroundings. It gives you a certain mental strength, and this comes, if you the closer you are to God, the stronger you become, because your spirit is now protected. Right? What is within you belongs to God. We are the temple of the Holy Spirit, right? The Holy Spirit is not going to let anything harmful happen to us. But if we're lacking in our communication and relationship with God, then we will not feel that strength and protection.
mhm,
We will not. We feel like God has abandoned us, that He doesn't care about us, and that's how we feel most of the time.
mhm,
So this spiritual strength, not being lukewarm, is also part of the um, and also anticipating bad things might happen. I told you earlier when we started,
mhm,
with everything going so well, during the birthday week, I was the whole time. I'm not lying. Like, this is a confession. Like, the whole time, all I was telling myself and asking myself was like, what is gonna go wrong? So I was anticipating something terrible to happen.
mhm, mhm,
That was my anticipation. It's not, መጥፎ ነገር ሆኖ ሳይሆን, it's just that was the way. Yeah. And for most of us, for example, we can't imagine losing our loved ones, especially our parents, right? Our siblings. We cannot imagine it. Even, when I ask my fiance, right, how do you, what would you feel? She's like, don't say that. Don't ever say that. But, to be honest with you, I've never told this to my parents as well. Every time I get a phone call from back home,
mhm,
I am scared to pick it up, because, like, I'm anticipating something terrible. Like,
mhm,
it's like one of these days, I know the phone call is not going to be like, oh, gee, how are you? How are you holding up? Do you need help? Type of thing. It's
mhm,
going to be like a terrible news.
mhm, mhm,
So you anticipate. This does not mean it's gonna let you deal with the emotions, but at least you have some ground to stand upon.
exactly.
So anticipation, like I said, the perspective of death in itself gives you a different lifestyle to live.
Mhm.
So it was a wonderful statement that you started with. So my
Ecclesiastes. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, my 2 cents is just this,
Hmm.
making sure we're well equipped, prepared, have spiritual strength, very
Hmm.
important, not being lukewarm, and having anticipation of the future. Like something could go wrong, and not always thinking, alga balga,
Yeah, exactly.
perspective matter.
And with what you said, um, and we can close with after this with like a question, or if we like closing thoughts, but we are it's very difficult um for us to conceive, but it's a very necessary one. The understanding of that could happen. And but then at the same time, with what you said, mental strength, what I kept thinking of is like the gym.
Mhm.
you know um on a little lighter note, I noticed that a lot of the sermons a lot of the sermons that people give, I've noticed, even the Coptic church and the other churches,
Yeah.
they're always using the gym analogy. I'm just like,
Mm.
why are you overusing that? Like,
Yeah.
if it's the scriptures, why can't you apply it elsewhere?
Yeah.
But I really think, like, the gym is like one of the closest analogies that you can, like, relate to back to the spiritual life and then just life in general.
Yeah.
And any gym goer, I'm sure you can tell us as well.
Of course.
We'll tell you is we'll tell you is that 80% is diet, and then 20% is the workouts and like the splits, and then are you going to failure and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We can spend all day with the analogy and connect it 100%. I would love to do that, but the one thing I do want to draw is the fact that they continued to do it day after day after day. It wasn't they went to the gym one day and they became buff. That's
Yeah.
not what happened. That's not what Christ expects of you. That's
Yeah.
not what the message that we're trying to portray here. You're not gonna feel absolutely amazing, and then just all the anxiety completely disappeared after one prayer. No, after one sabbath, even sabbath, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, those are exception. We take like exception stories and then we throw it everywhere. Even then, no, probably not. And thank God, Abba Gavara Kidan said it in a sermon too, so, like, people won't call
Yeah.
me out on this. He did say that. He said,
Yeah.
just going to Saval one day is not gonna completely heal
No.
you.
No.
And um, it's just continually going again and again and again. Why? Because you being around God, being in communion with God, like, and that energy, and we can go in depth another time with the Orthodox faith. The way we understand it is being close to God is what gives us energy. Being close to God literally gives us energy.
Yeah.
And so that mental strength that you talked about is it's something that's formed. Like, they didn't come out of the womb with that. When they
No.
say, like, "Minat ta'atachuno," is because they're
Uh,
speaking from the perspective of, like,
themselves.
Ethiopia Santa Mahabara. I'll tell you all, like,
Yeah.
my parents, they have a Mahabara on Sunday that they started like 10, 15 years ago, and they're doing it
Yeah.
on Zoom. You know what I mean? Like, that
Wow.
doesn't even make sense. From Ethiopia, and and it doesn't make sense because they're not in physical. And like,
Yeah.
on in our generation, if we moved away, we probably would cut ties. We never talk to people. But my parents, man, like, just like 15 years, man, and then they're still doing it on Zoom.
Yeah.
Kedus Mikael. And
Wow.
um, it's interesting because they come from that perspective, and that's like why it sounds like it's insulting, as you said earlier with Abba.
Yeah.
It may sound insulting, but the reason why is because they have so much source of energy from
Yeah.
God, from the saints, from their community, from spending a lot of time in the sun. I'm sure a lot of us have heard stories
Yeah.
about walking 10,
Touch grass.
20, 30 miles to school,
Touch grass.
and at 5 a.m. in the morning, and all those things, they really affect,
Yeah.
for those of us who are the physical sciences, it really affects our biology. But then at a higher level, the way that God created us, it affects our spiritual disposition, our strength, all those things.
Yeah.
And understanding that really reorients us, thinking, okay, even when you go to therapy, cool,
Yeah.
If they ask you like, do you have close relationships? Like, do you have people you talk to? Do you go
Mm.
out? Do you work out? Do you you know what I mean? Like, and all
Yeah.
these things are part of the healing process. You know, which we have that in Ethiopia. Like, they have church, they have
Yeah.
mahaba, they have ikub, idr. And if you don't know what this is, look it up. You need to be
Yeah.
Abasha again.
Yeah.
So,
The
and
Edder.
so,
Edder.
and all these things, the strength, it's not from yourself. You get it from outside of you. Like,
Yeah.
it's never, obviously the decision has to come from you, but it comes from outside of you, and it doesn't come overnight. It has to be like
Yeah.
continual. You do it over and over and over and over again, and then you get the benefits through the grace of God. And so
Very,
I think
very.
of, lastly, with like what Saint Mano Dakwan Hinok posted on his page a little while ago about, apparently, like, there's a lot of suicides going on in Ethiopia, and he posted, speaking about Paul and Silas, like the story of, when they were
Mm.
released from prison through the power of the angel. They the This is, I think it's in the book of Acts, chapter, I believe, 18,
Yeah.
if I am not wrong, and either it's 16 to 18. And so
Yeah. That's when Paul comes in, 15.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it makes sense.
And then so and so it, they say something to the guard who was about to kill himself, and he said, do not do this great harm to
Mm.
yourself. They say that to him. And Deacon Hanok, like, he expounds more and more, saying, first of all, if you pass away, if you end up not being the person you're supposed to be, and being the instrument for God, not having the fulfillment that God, the joy that God has for you, not having that, if you pass away, of course God is sad. Of course we are sad.
Yeah.
But inya, like, God aside, we as people, no one is gonna care. No one is gonna care, uh, whether, because it's gonna be for a little while.
Yeah.
Even we had, like, a recent death. Like, no one talks about him anymore. Like, in Dallas, and it's the same way. Like, same cycle. We have someone pass away. We just don't think about them anymore.
Yeah.
And this should be a reminder for all of us that the coming from that perspective of what Deacon Hanok said, and also the church fathers, and what Saint Paul and Saint Silas said, it's like, don't do this harm to yourself. Don't be lukewarm. Don't pull yourself away from God. Pull yourself away from your community. Be selfless. Like, being selfless helps you. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to be selfish, be selfless. Like, that's
Yeah.
the best way to be selfish.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so these, and this, and then we'll expound more on it on the next one, God willing,
Yeah.
is one way to think about, to help us reorient us back into um,
Yeah.
strength, and moving forward to that north star, to our vision, and
I think
our eternal end.
I think it's really essential for um, our community, especially young folks. Here, even in the area that we're in, there's a great youth group, and have a significant effort in making sure there is awareness of it, helping youth deal with these things. Uh, Even if in the modern therapy and the modern psychology, if they're saying you need a spiritual psychosis, or a spiritual way of healing certain things, this should tell you a lot. If the
Mhm.
world is telling you there needs to be a spiritual movement within you so that you can be stronger in your mental wellness, then you should really grab hold on to your spiritual life, out of as if it is the only ship that will allow you to cross into where you want to, or where you need to be. So four things are essential, like we've always mentioned, and physical health, mental health, emotional health, as well as relational health. These things need to be in order at all times. Most of the time, the issue is that when we focus on our like physical wellness, we tend to avoid the other ones. The relational does not matter. The spiritual one, the emotional one, we don't invest in. But keeping these things balanced, or balancing these things, is crucial for our uh, strength, for our ability to actually deal with these things. It's very it's heartbreaking. I cannot imagine because we're losing so many people in this way. Um, and there's no I can't have blame except at least let's try and give people maybe a lifeline with these small suggestions. And it is up to us to make sure everybody around us is okay. Uh, what does that mean? Not texting them. I texted, "Hey, are you, bro? How are you?" What does that do? What does that do? There's always something that I say, like whenever I answer somebody's phone call or when I call somebody, I'm like, "Nafsa halaj?" I got this from Abba, believe it or not, and I've always wondered. So, right before I left Las Vegas, I was like, "Why do you say that?" I just thought it was like it was a joke. "Nafsa halaj?" It's really, it's like I'm concerned for your soul. Like, how's your soul doing? How's your spiritual life doing? A lot of people ask you how you are physically. Physically, I look fine. I'm smiling. I look great, right? But inside of you, there's something that is dying, something that is withering away without people noticing it. So that's why they always say nafsa halaj. They always ask about the soul and the spirit. So whenever you check on people, don't just text them impersonal things. የሆነ ምንም tangible ያልሆነ ነገር just በቃ check in አደረኩ. No, no. Like if we care about the people that are around us, we have to move them towards God, challenge them, help them come see why there's so many strong-minded people that are in our community. Right? How did they deal with it? How did they go through all these difficult times? Mental strength comes from God Himself. Thanking Him. Like all our parents, they thank God. እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን የሚሉት እዛ ነው. Because they got through what they went through Him. But us watching them get through in the way that they did, still not exercising for ourselves, like you said, sometimes we have to take responsibility for that as well. Because we seen the way and we're still not finding the path. That's up to us. We're closing our eyes and ourselves on ourselves as well as those people around us as well. So we have a huge responsibility as Christians, where we're not just living for ourselves, but for our society, our surroundings as well. Right, like you said, what fantastic thing should be on the reel. Right, the best way you can be selfish is by being selfless. Selfless is
Mm.
the best selfish, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic. This is wonderful, wonderful.
I think that's a good place, right?
Yeah.
And Greek Bazao, the TLDR, not too long to read. He had some machu. Just start a mahaber.
Love
Start into the go, and all your
Uku.
problems will go away.
Have you read an uku?
I want to, but then there's no,
Uku is
there's
an
no.
incredible way of saving. I don't think saving is good. Not like the saving that we have. You just put it in a saving account and hope
Yeah.
it grows. Sometimes I think as Habashas is genetically we're not meant to do that because
Yeah. No, 100%.
it's very rare that I've seen people who say "እቁብ" though they but I'm flourish ያደርጋሉ በእቁብ,
But
and that's something I really want to try.
I
And
really,
that
yeah, like, because
yeah
I think of it like the new hey, like if Roth IRA, and like what the apostles used to do with the people, like they would have
yeah
all their stuff like at their feet,
and the same
like
yeah
Roth IRA and that together is a cool. I think of it like that. I mean, that's what like
yeah
it's like it's not monopolizing. It's not saying, oh, you have to do this now.
yeah.
Obviously cultures have changed. We can't. We don't live in the Mahabharata,
Mm.
but which it would be nice, but
I
let's
would
be
be
nostalgic and
yeah
idealistic in ourselves. Again,
yeah
uh, like it's more practical because everyone gets a turn. Like and so or
yeah
like it goes all around, and then it strengthens your bond. Like that's one layer, and like it could be like
mm.
በዕቁብ ደግሞ ከእንደገና ተያይዞ like maybe ጊዮርጊስ ማህበር or
ማህበር ነው
እንትና
uh,
ማህበር, you know what I mean, and then
yeah
just and then like baza sabab, going to church and everything, you can already check on each other. Like, it wouldn't be awkward. I think that's another thing of why people don't check on each other, is because it's just awkward. They're like, like,
yeah
should I just call? That
oh
kind of gets over that awkwardness because you're
yeah
already in it. You're like, oh,
yeah
might as well.
You're
happening.
investing in each other's life. You're growing together. You know that
Yeah.
that's the biggest. My favorite part of when I was living in Ethiopia, there was Mahabar Ragwil. I don't know if
Mm,
you know them,
mhm.
but Mahabar
Is it
Ragwil
like
is
the Ragwe Linton, like Addis Ababa?
the whole Mazamran,
Oh,
like
okay.
the Mahaba, like the Ragwil Marakato معناتها.
Hmm.
And they used to come to our house like every single month. They have a Mahabar that they do,
Hmm.
and they also
Do
have
they
a
do it
tour.
on Zoom now?
They're all in Ethiopia. They're all in
Oh,
Ethiopia.
okay, okay.
And when I tell you, they are like the wealthiest people that I know. Like I'll
Mm.
go over there and marvel. Like for me, they vacation here. I'm like Jesus Christ. You know how wealthy you have to be. Like you use America for vacation. Oh my goodness, that's crazy to me. But they did it through Mahabar and Nuku.
Mm.
They basically held each other. They're still to
Mhm,
this day. Right? I was when they started. I was
mhm.
4 or 5.
Wow. So what, 25
Until
years?
this day they are servants. ይሄ ያው የእንትኖች የሪታይርመንት ክሩ ይባላሉ እንጂ ዘማሪያኖቹ they still like not one person unless they pass away they're all together still like spiritually they're connected financially they help one another they grew and this is how our community is supposed to grow and
Yeah.
that's not something that, you know where I see this, you know, not to, you know, like we're very we don't talk smack about, but the
Yeah.
Protestants are very very good at this.
Mhm,
It's not just about a social gathering,
mhm.
but they help each other out in their community as far as like
Yeah.
work goes, investment goes. They care about their community first, and if you need help, they will help. They will be so glad to help you out.
Mhm.
We don't see that in our community
Mhm.
for some other reason.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that we can change at some point.
I think OTYD is definitely like like a step in the right direction.
And I
It might
think
be
we
like
should
yeah,
should be a
definitely.
suggestion there.
Yeah,
Mahabara Nuku,
maybe. Yeah.
just
And
throw it out there. OTYD.
definitely much to say, but definitely we'll leave it for
Yeah.
the next episode.
All right.
And you know,
An hour 30 though.
uh,
Is this our longest one?
I think yeah, it is. But one thing, a lot of people have said they wanted it a little longer.
Yeah.
So I guess hopefully
You're
they'll check it
welcome.
out and they'll be
Now
blessed
they
with
won't watch it though. 'Cause they're out there going, that's too long. An hour 30. I
it.
haven't got the time.
They're like
Never
30
mind.
minutes in, not too long. All
Yeah,
right.
you don't win.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
am good. Until next time.